Hi, everyone. We are nearing the end of the ICE 365 tribal gaming content series that has seen a variety of content pieces, both on demand and live, released every day in the course of this week. This content series, one could say, has been the digital equivalent of a tribal gaming seminar that Victor Rocha from Pechanga.net has been bringing every year for the last, I think, 6 or 7 years to ICE London, together with the National Indian Gaming Association. And our guest today, NIGA chairman, Mr. Ernie Stevens, has been involved in this seminar and coming to ICE every year for, I don't know, again, 6, 7 years now to showcase tribal gaming to the global gaming community. Chairman Stevens, it's a shame we didn't see you in real life, face-to-face this year at ICE London, but it's great to be able to talk to you today about tribal gaming, about the last year and about NIGA's efforts going forward. So thank you so much for your time today. We know that the land-based sector has been rather affected by the pandemic, but regional properties, and that's what most tribal casinos have performed better than the destination model as we know it from the Las Vegas Strip. And many of our contributors have discussed that particular fact over the last few days in the ICE 365 tribal gaming content series. So as we are now hopefully coming out of the pandemic, I'd love to ask you about what you consider to be the 2 biggest threats right now going forward to tribal gaming, and whether the pandemic is still one of them.
Thanks, Ewa. It's great to see you, and certainly wish we could be there. It's been some very historical accomplishments in the things that any country has done with ICE gaming. So. But we do what we can, and I would encourage everybody that's here online, that we can see that light in the tunnel, but we still got a ways to go. So we got to make sure we carry that football into the end zone. If you could kind of see that from a Green Bay Packer fan here on the Oneida Reservation in Wisconsin. So we got to carry that football. So safety and our mask and all these different things, they're still very relevant, and we got to hold the line and get through this. So, as far as the threats go, obviously that's the number one threat, our safety factors. And I really congratulate all the gaming managers, the gaming regulators, the commissioners, and all those folks that stood on the front line. And when you go into the casino, you have the acrylic in between the seats. You got mask available. You got to make sure people try to flip the mask down below the nose, and our security guys make them flip it up. All kind of things like this. But there's a lot of, and those are a lot of other kind of threats. Whether it's competition, that's always there. Some of the online stuff, well, that's the way it goes. We're ready to do whatever, however that expands. We worry about different laws and ordinances that may try to apply to our sovereign governments. We're always trying to educate in that area. But I think the bottom line for us is just keeping our floor safe. And our tribal leaders have been on the front line from day one doing so. Hey, and people like to pull the slot machines. They like to eat. They like to mingle and see each other in the casinos. I think that's still our number one thing, and providing that kind of service. And a good quality service will continue to be our number one priority. Again, my congratulations goes to all those operators and managers and everybody else that are keeping our casinos safe and fun.
Thank you, Chairman. And moving on to the priorities, which I suppose relate somehow to those threats that you talked about as well, with pandemic, as you say, being still the number one. Can you tell us more about what NIGA will be focusing on in the next 6 to 12 months?
Again, I want to read this first line for you. Hold public officials accountable to honor tribal sovereignty and federal trust responsibility to tribal governments. It's a little bit of a handful, but it's appropriate. And I think that, from our standpoint, we have to educate our new administration and Congress and the folks around us about the certain climate of what we're going through and what's happening around us. And I think that's the real key. Education. Now, one might say we're in a better environment now, but I think that would reflect probably on the appointees that are either Native American or come from Native American backgrounds that understand tribal sovereignty. I myself, in my job, I'm ready to go to work or to battle or whatever it takes with any administration. And I've worked through many administrations. And so education is key here. That's our real key, to educate new administration in Congress. That's the real important factor here. So I think that's our number one. And again, I like the climate. So I you have Secretary Deb Haaland, former Congress lady from from New Mexico, a Laguna Pueblo tribal member. She's in the cabinet, the administration. She's a top official in the United States of America, and she's an Indian woman. And I just think that's just amazing. She's also very accomplished, and she's, aside from either one of those, she's very knowledgeable. So we're excited about those kinds of things are what is going to help Indian country get in the door and continue to educate. Remember, I knock on doors till my knuckles are bleeding, And in this case, we're going to be able to knock on some doors and get in and do some good quality education. And our key is that Indian country has to do it, and our leadership are the key educators. They're lobbyists, whatever you want to call them. The key educators are our tribal leaders. So we got to get in there and fix that. The number one best thing, tribal government relief for economic, health, and social services from the pandemic. That's key. We got to help.
So, Chairman, as you talk to us about education as the top priority for NIGA, in particular with the new administration in place right now, I want to talk about that education, but kind of in a broader international context. As you know, obviously, there's been a growing interest in the international gaming industry towards working with the tribes, and that's just going to increase right now with sports wagering being legalized in the States. But working and partnering with the tribes isn't necessarily the same as with commercial casinos. What is the main thing, do you think, that non-tribal gaming companies need to understand to be able to do business in Indian country?
Well, I think it's important to know that we have an opportunity here to do business directly with Indian tribes, and that our tribes the services that we provide to our tribes are amazing, and the benefits, the dollars that we receive are 100% taxed by the services that we provide to our members. So my father, who told me that it's imperative that we understand Indian tribes can do business in Europe and any other countries, and that we have to establish that. And this is what we're talking about. He's in a nursing home now. He's 89 years old. He's a Marine Corps veteran, and he worked in government. He worked for the President of the United States in his day. He worked for a few of them. And that's what he always says. We have to figure out how to do tribal government to government business throughout this world, not just Indian country, not United States, throughout this world. And I think this is a key opportunity to understand how these benefits come back to Indian country. And I think it's also good it's maybe cumbersome a little bit to understand that each one of these, almost 600 tribes are each individual governments. So there could be some, it could be complicated sometimes. But it's just like doing any other business. You got to cross the T's and dot the I's, and that we're very accomplished in those areas, and that it's not just, we're not just someone's going to have a meeting, a cup of coffee, and we got a deal. It's government to government, business to business, and we also have tribal enterprise, and we have a lot of Indian business persons. And I think our ability to reach out to the whole world is a number one goal for us. I think we began to accomplish that, but we got to open this world to amazing stuff. And I think this is what we're doing. I think this is our opportunity. But again, these businesses go towards Indian country and building our communities.
So again, as you talked about tribes working and being open to work with the international community, but really the importance as well of understanding the government-to-government relations that sometimes can be a little bit challenging for those international companies. But there is business out there in Indian country. So as my final question, and as I wanted to ask you, as you have been educating the global audiences on those opportunities and business differences in tribal gaming, what is your message to the international gaming sector, and why should it engage with tribal operators?
Well, I think, again, what we've all been through a real tough time in the world, and I think that we're all in this together. So I think that we got to continue to move forward. And again, as I started out this conversation, to be safe and to understand that a consistency and continued measures to keep our world safe around us. I think that's very important. So, and I think in terms of our world, I think we have to figure out new ways and figure out what the new normal is in business. And so it's important for us to appreciate that we have goals and objectives that we have to make. And if now is a good time to try to understand how we can work with our friends through ICE and other opportunities to work with the world. Before the pandemic, Indian Country was the 12th highest employer, right up there with Walmart and Target and all these folks. And we had 700,000 jobs, direct and indirect, almost a $30 billion industry. And then if you continue to consider the hospitality and all these, it's a giant industry. And now we had to figure out how to fight back to get back to where we were. And I think that's the real key component here, is that we're ready to do business. We're professional. We're educated. In the old days, we were always trying to find someone to help us or hiring consultants. And now, since I started this job, when I started this job, my daughter was in junior high school, and now she's finishing up her doctorate. She's teaching at the university. My son, Ernest Stevens III, works directly in gaming. He works with some online stuff too, sports betting. All this stuff has expanded. My other boy's the vice chairman. My other daughter has a master's. My other girl works in gaming. This is just my family. So now, Indian Country, we really become the experts. We are the experts, and we're ready to do business with the world to move our community forward.
Chairman Stevens, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing that knowledge with the international gaming community. It seems like we were not able to meet earlier this year at ICE London, but we might have the opportunity to meet at the NIGA show in July in Las Vegas, which is actually, as I find out, collocated with RES 2021 Economic Summit, which, as you explained to me, seems is a result of the cooperation between the two organizations that started at ICE. So I'm really pleased to hear that. Thank you so much, and I hope I'll see you there in person at a live event. Thank you for today.